So the purpose of today is to foster this exchange of knowledge, to build capacity in the sector, and to strengthen the network that we have between Sweden and Ukraine. So we will get a deep dive into two projects in Lviv and in Skellefteå. And each of these will be followed by a Q&A session. So please save your questions for that time. We hope to be able to answer them. You can write them in the chat, or you can put your hand up and ask them in person. So we really want to foster that exchange. So think about your questions during the presentations. Now, our first study visit is to Unbroken Rehabilitation Center in Lviv, which is a project from ABMK Architects. And this will be presented by Natalia Mashevska, who is the chief architect of the Unbroken project, and Maki and Maximuk from Studios Mist, who have done a filmed study visit, so we can see. This new center is only just opened, as I understand it, or about to open, so it's brand new. So a very inspiring timber on top project in Lviv. So I will hand over to Maki and Natalia to present some more about Unbroken Rehabilitation Center.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. Hi, everybody. First of all, I also want to say thank you to our Swedish partners about the initiative to have an ability to make this exchange. And I also want to add, as we talked about in the previous roundtable, that this is just the beginning of the future project about the experience exchange between Sweden and Ukrainian in architecture, and also in the construction, in timber sphere, in timber construction. So I think everybody will find it useful to listen, to ask questions. I think I will tell a couple words, and after that, probably my colleagues from ABMK will be able to answer the questions. So if a lot of people here in Ukraine know what's going on, people from Sweden, we also have a situation that we have really urgent situation. We need to develop our hospitals. We need the rehabilitation spaces here. And the purpose of this project, like the aim and the problem, was to make it fast. We do have a long timber history in Ukraine, a timber construction history, but due to different reasons, we do not develop it last years, and so we find it useful to talk and to exchange with our Swedish colleagues that go a lot further in timber construction. This project that we will present together with ABMK Architects, it's a rehabilitation center in Lviv. It's just part of the reconstruction, was made from CLT, from timber. It was just 2 floors added, but as you all understand, the main purpose was to make it fast. So this technology was chosen to do it, and my colleagues from ABMK after the presentation can prove or not that everything, all the expectations, we meet. The constructors, the architects, and the clients met all the expectations. It took about 2 months to complete 2-story additions. So I will go further to the video we've made with my colleagues from ABMK Architects. And after that, we will ask questions from you, and I will ask my colleagues from ABMK to give an answer. So mainly that's it. Emma, could you please share the video?
Certainly, I think Frederick is helping us with that. Here we go.
Construction site, 12th of March 2025. The first stage involved the reconstruction of the 7-story building, with no significant changes to the overall volume. An accessible terrace was installed, and an external elevator was added. This allows the transportation of patients on medical beds. Regarding the lower 3-story building, its reconstruction involved the demolition of the upper, 4th, technical floor. 2 new floors made of CLT structures were then added. The landscaping of adjacent areas is in its final stage. A large amount of earthwork is being carried out to eliminate previous barriers. The 7-story building has been reconstructed for rehabilitation purposes with patient rooms. Sun protection systems have been installed on the facade, as well as on the first floors of the adjacent building. A transparent tunnel connects the old hospital buildings. All interiors have been fundamentally updated. A model of the new clinic by Shigeru Ban and ABMK. The reception area and entrance group have been updated, with ramps replacing the former stairs. A previously filled-in pool on the first floor has also been restored. An observation and recreational terrace has been created on the roof for clinic patients. It combines physical and mental rehabilitation functions. The terrace also serves as an open-air event space for patients and visitors. On the 7th floor, in addition to rehabilitation rooms, there is an occupational therapy kitchen in the common area. Meeting room. Occupational therapy kitchen. This sixth floor was funded by the city of Freiburg. Additional heroes wards have been arranged. Authentic gypsum and ceramic moldings have been preserved. Connection between the floors of both buildings. Final interior finishing works are underway. View from a patient room window onto the renovated building facade. Corner Rehabilitation Ward. In each room and restroom, a patient monitoring and staff alert system has been implemented. This ensures a quick response from medical personnel. Small open terrace for the patients. Electrical networks have been laid openly to avoid additional structures that would reduce ceiling height. The interior design preserves the wooden surfaces of the CLT panels in their natural state. The facade is finished with HPL panels. The newly added upper volumes differ in material and color from the main structure. Two crucial features of this technology, particularly important for our project, are weight and speed. The main volume of the extension was assembled on site within 2 weeks. The decision to add 2 lightweight construction floors made of CLT panels is innovative for Ukraine. Overall, despite initial skepticism, the city and the client are satisfied with the result. This gives us credit for further developing this technology in Ukraine. The ABMK team handled the architectural design, engineering, and technical support. Rooftop of the timber addition with engineering equipment.
So that's it. Thank you, colleagues, for sharing. I was not correct when I told about 2 months. The correct time was 2 weeks. So it's really incredible that it was possible in Ukraine. Also, for people outside of Ukraine and people who are not working with timber here in Ukraine, I want to mention that nowadays it's possible to construct just 2 floors, not more than 2 floors in timber in Ukraine due to Ukrainian regulation and norms. And really the purpose of, as it was mentioned in these videos, the success of this project is an example for the future communication, or example for the future project, that it gives us a credit for developing the timber, the sustainable timber construction in Ukraine. This approach that we work with our Sweden colleagues, and I believe our colleagues from Sweden will show their project that are more complex. It's not just about 2 floors. Then probably they will share their way. How did they approach and how did they come to this? But now I know that here is my colleague from ABMK Architects, Natalia Mashevska, and if anybody have any questions or anything to add, probably you can raise your hand if it's possible here, or try to ask the questions, and we will direct it to the authors of the project, ABMK, and it's possible to clarify everything that we are interested in.
Thank you so much for the video. While everybody else is thinking about what their question is, I would like to ask a question about the initial skepticism you said that was overcome by showing that what timber on top and what timber can do. What was the initial skepticism, or the skepticism towards using timber architecture?
Natalia or I can tell also. I have a couple words in this.
Okay. Martin, you can start.
Yeah, a lot of people here are scared about timber construction because of fire. First of all, it's our fire inspectors. And I've met one of my clients who've been to the timber hotel in Vienna last month, and he also told me that it was a bit scary for him to stay on the 7th floor of the timber hotel. So definitely it is. We have to I know about that. Probably Natalia will tell another things about skepticism here in Ukraine, because we don't have successful examples of it, and people probably afraid because they don't know. Maybe you, Natalia, know any other examples of this?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with you about fire protection regulations. I think there's the main problem of timber structure in Ukraine, because everybody is scared about fire protection. So I think that this is the main problem in Ukraine that we want to receive from this skepticism.
Yeah, we want to overcome we want to show that it's okay, that there are a lot of good examples in the world. So
yes,
I think that's the most important thing here.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Max, if you would like to ask your question in the forum.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for amazing presentation. And I'm wondering, how did you manage to cope with the regulations and building codes according to the wood construction in civic buildings? Because I know it's pretty hard for structures made of timber to be classified like as civic structures. Thank you.
Now, from Ukrainian regulations, there is allowing of 2 floors of wooden structure. Yes. So we here in this project in this project we add only 2 floors for this building according to Ukrainian regulations, and we also have complex works with the manufacture of CLT and timbers elements. It's the manufacturer in Ukraine in Zhytomyr district. It's a result.
Yep.
Yes, and they made for our project different protocols of fireworks that will work in our case, and all structure elements we covered with the 3 layers of gypsum.
Mhm.
So it is good and it's enough for fire protection.
Mhm. Can I ask you what type of insulation did you use?
It was it was mineral wood.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So the next question, I was wondering if you're trying to apply to some sort of green certification, like BREEAM, passive house, active house, some type of this codes. Do you trying to get these certificates, or you had this aim in advance in the beginning?
We made only a passport of energy
Mhm.
certification.
Mhm.
It's only like all Ukrainian regulations allow this, but no green passport. We do not make it.
Mhm. And one trying to get through this process to get this green certification of some kind.
Mm, mm, Exactly, I don't. I can answer this question correctly because I don't have additional information of this.
Mhm.
Sorry.
I'm just wondering, because CLT, good material to
Mhm.
provide like a lower carbon footprint. So in this case, I thought maybe you was thinking about this
We
international validation.
We were thinking about it in another project that we are working on with the Shigeruban architects. It's another project of surgical hospital.
Mhm.
There we will I think we will make some green passport for this building.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other further questions? You can also write them in the chat if you would prefer. When did you say the building will be opened, or is it already open now?
I think it will be opened in first part of April. Soon.
Very soon, yes. We're lucky to get the first view. I had another question. Since we're talking about materials, have you considered, or is it being tested anywhere in Ukraine that you know about other kinds of natural materials that can be used in combination with timber? For instance, clay plaster and straw together with the CLT.
I'm not sure. Maybe Markian knows some information.
Nah, we also have a history about constructing with straw, but not in modern construction, not in modern times. So as I know, what about this project, colleagues did not, and there was no other materials considered because of the speed. We had to implement this building as soon as fast. So it was decided to choose a known method, to choose the CLT. And also, thanks, Natalia, about mentioning the CLT Result company in Ukraine, because it's a bit paradox. We have really great manufacture of CLT panels here in Ukraine, and this company makes all the export to the Europe. And a lot of CLT panels from Ukrainian wood manufactured here in Ukraine are used to construct building all around the Europe. But we do not use it completely. We do not use it a lot. We use it just in small projects. And as I know, this is the first civil project in Ukraine made by CLT in this scale. So going back to the question, we are happy, we will be happy to experiment, to get this, to get your knowledge, to get information about the combination, about straw and other materials, especially that could be implemented in civil constructions and so on. So there is also a question in the chat.
There is. I saw this a question from Ivanka that says, is this Lviv's project? It is in Lviv. Do you use only CLT panels, or maybe you also use glulam columns and beams?
Only CLT panels
Mm.
for all walls and floor slabs and beams.
Yes, thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And Oscar has a question as well.
Yes, I do. Thank you for the wonderful video. And maybe you already stated, but I missed it. But is there any learning from realizing this project that you weren't aware of when entering it? Were the challenges the same that you had foreseen, and the advantages, or did anything surprise you in the realization?
I think it was a little bit hard with our constructor building specialist that made construction works, because they don't have any experience with this wooden structure elements. So I think that was not a problem, but a challenge for them. And I think that's all.
Structural. So you mean structural, it was the first experience for your structural engineers, right? To
work with CLT.
And were they satisfied, or do they want to continue in other projects in CLT?
Yes, they were satisfied, because it was great experience for them, and they are happy with the result that we have all.
And about the timeline, is it really 2 weeks?
Yes, all CLT structure, it's approximately 2 weeks, because there was preparation works on site for surface of floor slab, and then all structure of CLT was made by maybe 2 weeks, or maybe some couple days plus.
Okay, personally for me it's surprising.
How fast it is, you mean?
Yeah, how fast it was. It's really construction works of 2 floors. It's impossible to make in such a short terms.
Definitely a benefit as well with the speed that can, when working in rebuilding, it's a huge benefit. Did we have any other questions in the group? Otherwise, we can go to our next study visit. Then I'll hand over to Oscar Norelius, who is partner here at White Arkitekter in our Stockholm office, and was also the chief architect for Sara Cultural Center, Sara Kulturhuset in Skellefteå, which is in the north of Sweden here, very far up. And Sara is one of the highest timber constructions in the world, and it really demonstrates both sustainable innovation and technology with quality design and architecture all in the same package. So thank you, Oscar. If you wanted to share your presentation and show us through the building.
Yes, thank you very much. And while I get this up on the screen, I'd like to reiterate the thank yous from you, Emma, to everyone participating in this project. It's great to be able to learn from each other and create a platform for exchange. It's a very instructional video that you brought us on the trip to Unbroken. So I'm happy to hear your findings from that project as well. It's something that we can use in pushing timber forward in Sweden as well. Now, Emma, I can see you. Is it in the right mode now? You can see the full screen presentation? Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. We did a brief presentation of this project in the first roundtable of the Sustained Timber project. Will be a short recap on that part as well, so you get an introduction to where we are and what this project is all about. But today we'll have a little bit more time to go into step into the building and see some of the spaces, some of the floor plans, and also some of the challenges that we've been working through to get this off the ground. Here we go. And very briefly, I think you mentioned already, Emma, that this is really part of our research endeavor. Our vision is that all our architecture should be carbon neutral through design excellence by 2030. And we work very intensively with research within our projects to innovate and find new ways of creating buildings that have less impact on the climate while performing even better for the users and the cities or locations they're located in. And we do this mainly through our White Research Lab, which can invest small parts of our previous profits into creating new knowledge within our projects. And we've had a big focus on mass timber, circularity, and social sustainability these last years. And this project specifically comes from this research lab and the focus on mass timber, where a project was launched in 2015 for a culture center and hotel in the north of Sweden. You can see Skellefteå on the map up here. So quite far from our capital, Stockholm, where me and Emma are today. And we decided to enter this competition not just to win it, but also to develop new knowledge in how we could apply timber at very large scale and complex projects that had not been done at this scale before. And Skellefteå, of course, the project begins in the location. It's far north, as I said. It's located along the Skellefteå River. Historically, the city is located here because of the mining industry and the forest industry. And this, of course, was one of the reasons why we thought that this was a good location to test timber construction at new scales. And yes, you can see here on the left, the local resource, and on the right, the heritage. So old timber buildings of course, small scale, but this is the very core of the ancient or old Skellefteå by the church. So the tradition was there. The current city center was modernized in the 50s and 60s, so not much timber present there today. But the cultural connection and the tradition was already there. So we picked up on this to create the building that we have as our background as well. But something that's completely new, of course. So it's not a design that's looking backwards. It's more a design that's rooted in the culture of building locally, but that really works with these new materials, engineered timber, and this fantastic program that this building is hosting that I will come back to. And this connection, I think, to the local and the global, the climate issue and the need for us to find new ways of building have put this project really at the center of Swedish architecture globally. We've received more awards for this project than anything else. And most lately, the most influential building in the world in 2021 by Design Magazine. And it's quite interesting that a project so far north in a city that's not that big has had this impact on the construction and architecture industry. Going back to the competition and our first approach, the building was to house approximately 30,000 square meters, a hotel with 200 rooms, restaurants, spa and gym, but also, and maybe first and foremost, a culture center with 6 theater stages of different sizes, the public library, and 2 exhibition halls for art. And all of this was already activities existing in Skellefteå of very high quality on a national level, that were to be co-located in this building right at the center of the city. So this was our vision image, and the motto was side by side, that we would create this series of volumes in a composition that made the culture center, but where each part was, you could read each part in the design of the building, and also make sure that every function here had a purpose, a space built for its purpose. And this was also, of course, a big part of the puzzle, was working with the intrinsic characteristics of timber, making sure we were not stacking programs over each other that would lead to this being impossible to do in timber, but really sectioning everything up, making sure we had the flows internally, but making sure that structurally we could realize this building in wood. I mentioned the contents, and one of the key decisions we made was, yes, we need to separate everything so that we can work with the structure, work with the acoustics, and make the logistics work. But we also want people to come together and these activities to function as a whole. So you can see this section on the image with the staircase in the middle, which is what we call the heart of the building, the culture stair. And from this space, visitors have an overview into the hotel lobby, into the library, up to the theater foyers and the exhibition halls. And of course, the hotel is hovering above, so the elevators and vertical transportation lands in this space. So it's really one central space where you get an overview of everything that this building has to offer and everything that is happening. This, of course, drives complexity. So we needed to work very closely with a structural engineer to make sure that this was feasible and could become a space where people would feel at home. The same view in plan, you can see the main entrance to the right-hand side of the image, where you step into this culture staircase. You can see the massive columns supporting the hotel above, and then the hotel lobby, the library that runs along the pedestrianized street on the west side. And then when we're sunken underground, the services and the trap rooms for the stages. The site is sloping, so we have a one-story height difference from the main entrance to the south to the north. So we get two public floors, but this one is public on the south and then becomes underground to the north. And we'll come back to the upper level in a while. But this is this culture staircase, the central space you enter into, where we really worked to keep this space as clean as possible, to make sure that it was a space of high quality with symmetry, and a space that people could really appreciate, even though we had all of these challenges with the 20-story hotel above and all these different functions around this space. And you can see here that the timber is largely exposed. The floor slab above in CLT, the glulam columns, everything is visible. You can touch it, and it's really the structure of the building that shapes this space. And while we managed to get this very nice photo before the inauguration, this is what this space looks like most days, with spontaneous lectures or discussions, concerts, book readings. It's really a space that's being used by all of these actors in the building, and brings life to Culture Center and to Skellefteå as a whole. And you can see here the importance of this kind of gatherings in a large space like this being made in such a warm atmosphere, thanks to the exposed timber. Speaking of exposed timber, this was one of the big challenges, of course. We are realizing this building in mass timber to a very large extent. We knew it would be a challenge, so we really wanted to use all of this timber to shape the interior spaces, work with indoor climate, and make sure that the users could actually touch and feel the structure, and not just something being told that there is timber behind a gypsum wall, for example. And this, of course, is something that's feasible in Sweden thanks to our regulation that is performance-based. It still required a lot of work to work out the fire protection strategy, but thanks to our regulation, it was possible through hard work with the fire engineers, the structural engineers, and us, the architects, to realize the building in this way. And then you can, of course, unlock the materiality of timber and these large-scale industrialized panels that do have this very human-scaled texture and the warmth to the touch that gives a completely new interface to a building of this scale to the users. Stepping up one level, you can see the staircase, culture staircase going down to the main entrance to the south. We're now at level with the north entrance, which is the entrance from the travel center. And this is the level of all of the theater stages and the exhibition spaces. So this was a key in the design to gather all of these functions on one level, where loading and switching between different activities in performances in these stages is very efficient. In order for this culture center to work and live, they quite often host several performances every day. You have one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So the logistics of a building like this are extremely important. So we have this entire backbone, you could say, of the building where things can be moved between the back of house, which is the workshops to create the backdrops, to create the costumes, to do the makeup, and you have very efficient access to all of the different stages. And the central decision for us here was to open these back of house traditionally closed, something that you don't show. We wanted to glaze this and show it to the street to bring this life and the vision of what's happening behind the scenes to passers-by. And also, of course, the foyer is running on the west side along the pedestrianized street. So you get these large closed volumes are embedded in more open programs on all sides. And these spaces wrapping around, of course, need to be flexible. They need to be used for different purposes today, but they also need to ensure a long lifespan for this building, that it can be used in 50, 60, and 80 years' time as a culture center. And we have no idea today how that will be running, but we do know that with large spans, big open spaces, you can use it for dance rehearsals, exhibitions, book readings, gala dinners, and conferences already today. So this will be possible in the future. This is what drove the design of these special trusses in the ceiling that you can see here. These are carrying the levels above. In this case, it's the terrace and the restaurant of the hotel. And by working with a combination of timber and steel, we could express the different characteristics of these materials. Timber is very performant in compression. So all of the timber elements in these trusses are put under compression, whereas the elements that are in tension are made from steel, where steel is very efficient, so we could use very little material. And this way, you get the feeling that the space is as high as the slab and not as the bottom of the truss. So this allowed us also to work with a more compact building while retaining the sense of space internally. And these trusses, actually, you saw them above the culture stair. They guide visitors throughout all of the public spaces of this level. So you can also get a progression through the building and always know that you're in a public space wherever you have these trusses in the ceiling. Some spaces we could not expose the structure. The grand auditoriums are examples of that. Of course, here the requirements for acoustics are extreme, both for the quality of sound in these spaces, but also to protect from sound going between the different auditoriums and theaters that are located next to each other. But here, we still wanted timber to be a very strong part of the identity of the space. Either you live in Skellefteå and you get to go to the culture center to a performance in this space, or you're traveling to Skellefteå to the wooden culture center and you want to have this feeling whilst you're actually attending the performance. So we've worked with this interior that is entirely made from mass timber as well. And thanks to the collaboration with the contractor, Hent from Norway, and the suppliers, we could actually realize this cladding with mass timber instead of laminated veneer products, faster and cheaper, and get the quality that this has and the robustness that this means, that if someone bumps into this wall and makes a dent in it, it won't expose a fiberboard panel or something. It's actually mass timber that will have a dent, and we think that could also bring patina to this building over time. So this is the largest stage, 1,200 seats. It's also a multifunctional space where the lower section of the parquet can be stored. So you can create a big flat floor here, and you can get 1,500 visitors if you're having a concert with standing people. It can also be segmented into 2 different rooms, so you can have conference in one and theater in the other, music in the other, sorry. So it's very flexible to make sure that it's used as much as possible and not an empty shrine most days of the year. I hope that my voice will go well with the music if you hear it. We've really designed the culture center here as a platform for creation. And it was important for us that we are using timber in this project to create a very sustainable building, create a building that's connected to the city of Skellefteå and the identity of the city. But it's not a technical project that's all about construction material. It's actually a culture center that needs to work as a platform for creation for the citizens of Skellefteå. And this is a film from the 1-year anniversary of the building, where the local dance company set up a choreography in the double-skin facade of the hotel, where spectators could stand on the main square in front of the building and see this performance that used the 20-story high-rise as its stage. This was, of course, nothing that we had intended or planned for, but we're very happy that this did take place, and I think it shows how the users of this building have really appropriated this building to them and finding new ways of using it. And this is the bridge, of course, to the Wood Hotel, the high-rise. So the room situated in the part above the culture center. This hotel hosts 205 rooms. There are 3 restaurants, a conference center, a gym, and a rooftop spa. So it's quite complex in its own. And you can see here how it's connected to the main stage that we cut in this timber model that we have in our London office. But here you can see the repetition of all of these small modules of rooms, how they are hovering above the culture staircase as well. So the very firm integration, I would say, structurally between the hotel and the culture center. And this floor plan was actually something we drew up in the very first sketching with the structural engineer in the competition phase, where we decided to propose a modular hotel room system with standardized hotel rooms, quite compact, so that people could be in their rooms, but also come down to the culture center if they wanted more space or if you wanted to interact. But these modules are positioned between 2 cores, which if we would have done a traditional project going based on concrete and steel construction, we would probably have had a central core and 2 escape staircases. Here we decided to put the cores at either end of the building to make it structurally more stronger, and giving us the opportunity to really push timber construction and use as much timber as possible in stabilization of the hotel. The rooms also have exposed structural timber within them. So the walls are CLT panels that are structural for the room, but also for stabilizing the entire tower. The ceilings are made from CLT, and the floor slab is CLT, but covered with the carpet. And these compact rooms with timber all around are featuring a fully glazed facade, so you can really get the maximum view over the landscape and the city, which of course a vantage point that was not available before a building of this height was built here. And while planning this, of course, bringing public functions with gathering a lot of people at the top of a high-rise brings even more complexity for evacuation strategies and technical issues with water and water pumping up to the spa, but also all of the media and air needed for the restaurants. But it was important for us to plan this as a state-of-the-art high-rise building where you can actually come up to the top as a visitor and look out onto the city. This building, of course, is visible, as you can see here, from afar. So it's really a big part of the skyline. So it's important for us that anyone visiting or living in Skellefteå could have access to go up here without staying at the hotel. And finally, the rooftop spa was an addition by the hotel operator quite late in the process. So this was another complexity that we often see in projects, that programs change, and this was no exception. So this had to be integrated in quite short time, quite late in the process, but we ended up managing to integrate this anyway with an outdoor pool, indoor saunas, etc. And coming into the more technical aspects, we've been through some of the key spaces of the building, and you can really see the difference in characteristics, ranging from the large spans of the foyers for flexibility, the acoustic requirements for the big stages located next to each other, the repetition, and of course, economic feasibility of the hotel rooms that are quite small but very repetitive. And all of this has generated different timber solutions, I would say, adapted to the specific situation. So in a way, this building has become a library of timber solutions for the timber industry in Sweden, demonstrating how we can work with high-rise structure and all of the aspects I mentioned before. So going through the building from the ground up, we have a concrete slab and retention walls here when we're underground to begin with. And from that level up, we have cross-laminated timber, so CLT slabs and walls for the entire building, glue laminated beams and columns carrying as well. We mentioned the hybrid glue lam and steel trusses that you saw in the images here. And then we have the prefabricated CLT hotel modules. And to add weight to the tower, the top 3 levels, so the ceiling and the 2 top slabs, are made from prefabricated concrete to add weight, but they are carried by timber elements and they are stabilized by timber elements. So they're just there to add weight to the tower top to reduce the accelerations in case of wind. This is from the Revit model, taking out all of the CLT elements. It's 9,500 cubic meters all in all. So you can see it's a very large part of the construction is made from CLT. This is combined with glue lam, which even if it's all over the building as well, of course, is more efficient in material use. It's 2,200 cubic meters for the beams and columns. And of course, these elements are connected by steel connections, basically. But the fact that we have these models is also thanks to our quite advanced digital design process for this project. This was a key to allow us to innovate and work together with the structural engineers, the contractor, the client, which I didn't mention is a municipality of Skellefteå. So we used this common model for sustainability simulations for daylight and wind, for communication with the politicians and the inhabitants of Skellefteå during consultations through AR and VR visits, visualization for communication, of course, review collisions, coordination with the design team, and then finally quantity takeoffs through databases for doors and quantities, and then on-site surveillance in BIM kiosks, where the construction workers every morning could look through on an iPad what the work of the day was, the purpose of the work of the day, and how things were to be organized. And being the general consultant for the project until the construction design, when the contractor took over, we made sure that all of our co-consultants were working in the same Revit model as us. And this allowed for very tight integration and a very good dialogue within the team. And you can see here, as we add the different disciplines to this Revit model, that it becomes very complex. We had almost 300,000 objects in this common model. So it needs a lot of rigor to make sure that this works well. But when you have that in place, of course, the project is very smooth and any mistakes or any issues are found in the model rather than on site. Moving on to the construction site, we really pushed prefabrication and the local prefabrication. The CLT factory is based 50 kilometers from Skellefteå. The timber is locally sourced, and we really strived to make as large elements as possible in the factory so that assembly on site was quick and efficient. This is the largest element that you can see here, protected and ready to be shipped to the site. It was 27 meters long and 3 meters wide. And you understand that when you can work with sections this large in a protected environment, of course, the assembly is very fast. It's much fewer lifts with the crane. And this is, of course, an economic gain as well. The contractor, Norwegian Hent, they estimate that we've saved 1 year in construction time. It's not a 2-week montage, unfortunately, of the structure, but a 73-week montage, but it's a very large building. And even though it was almost 2 years of building on the site, we had 0 complaints on the site works because it's so silent working with timber. This, I think, is a very important issue for a project like this, located at the very center of a city, that the construction cannot have, it's important that the construction has as little impact as possible on the city life. Potentially, this could have been something that really ruined restaurants or shops in the vicinity that, of course, have a lot of issues to come back. And it's both the silence on the site, but also, of course, the reduce of transportation. So 80% fewer trucks, because they can be loaded so efficiently with the lightweight timber. The phasing of the construction was also made quite differently. This construction was made without weatherproofing, so the construction started to the north from the ground up to a finished roof, where the facades could be mounted, and then protecting the timber, so avoiding that it was exposed for a very long time to the weather. This, of course, is a winter time, which is very good because any downfall comes in the form of snow instead of rain. But this was also done during the summer, where this timber was subjected to rain whenever it was exposed. But you can see that the facades and the roof are already done on the northern parts, while foundations are being laid for the hotel to the south. So a very different construction phasing, very different design planning for this as well. You can here also see the stabilizing cores that we managed to realize in CLT. So there's no concrete stabilizing this building. It's all made from CLT and glulam. The hotel rooms, as we said, the prefabricated modules, we managed to carry this all the way through. This is the first prototype in the factory. This is another factory, but also 50 kilometers from the site. And you can see how these modules are built up with CLT walls and ceilings and slabs, and then glulam columns at either end. And they were fitted with the interior part of the facade, so a triple glazing, so the climate shield, with radiators, plumbing. The bathroom is already done. The carpet is laid inside as well. So these modules are essentially plug and play as they arrived 2 by 2 on lorries to the construction site. And here we were also very fast. I think that the peak speed here was 2 floors, or 1 floor per week, in case there was not too much wind. You can also see, apart from the modules, the cores here that are 4-story high elements to make their assembly quick on site as well. The outer skin of the hotel, that's here to protect the exposed cores, but also the solar shading of the rooms is mounted on site. And you can see the timber facades of the culture center that were mounted on site in the foreground of this image. Fire safety has been mentioned a few times. I will speed up so we have some time for questions as well. But the building is rated BR0 according to the Swedish certification, and this means it needs analytical dimensioning. This means that the fire engineer needs to do a holistic strategy of evacuation and fire protection. And this, in this case, we've worked quite intensely throughout the whole project with this. And it ended up having the hotel tower fire rated to 90 minutes, which means that it should withstand an hour and a half of a fully developed fire before potentially collapsing. The culture center has a lower rating of R60, so 60 minutes, and this is because it's much easier to evacuate, of course. And this certification is achieved through over-dimensioning of all of the structural timber elements. So in case of a fire, there is an outer layer of timber that will char and gradually burn away. But while it does so, there's still a protected core of the timber that can support the building. The building is entirely sprinklered, of course. The evacuation stairs are well dimensioned and very specifically studied, as well as the evacuation lift. And then there is a natural fire coating of all the interior spaces to avoid the surface engaging in a fire, so mainly to protect people evacuating the building. So it's a very holistic concept to make sure that we could expose this much timber and build essentially this big public building only in timber. Going back to the sustainability ambitions, of course, timber was a core issue here, that we really wanted to use timber as a sustainable material for this structure. But this was also teamed up with a very smart energy system that connects the building with the rest of the city, making sure that any excess heat or cooling in the building could be shared with other buildings through a heat pump. And we're on a grid that is essentially powered by 100% renewable energy already. So this is very efficient from a carbon dioxide perspective. Photovoltaics on roof and facades are integrated as well as battery energy storage systems. So the backup sprinkler pumps run on batteries. Even if they are not in use often, they are tested every month, and this avoids to burn diesel within the building. And these batteries are also integrated in the holistic system and can be used to store energy. And you can use the energy from the batteries in moments of peak use. Sorry. We've worked a lot with the life cycle analysis of this building through the project, but mainly with an idea that timber is a sustainable material and very performant. And this is the result of the LCA that we did on the finalized building, where you can see that the emissions on the right-hand side from the materials, transportations, construction process, and operational energy over 50 years. If you summarize this, it comes up to 202 kilograms per square meter, which is extremely low according to international standards. And this, of course, is compensated by local renewable energy and the sequestration of carbon in the structure, which is why we claim that this is a climate positive building over its lifespan, meaning it's part of a circular construction industry. Yes, and you can see that over 50 years, the emissions related to this building are almost half the balancing measures of the stored carbon and the produced energy. We did another research lab project, just to round this off, on this project, because we've talked about this outside of Sweden quite a lot, in the Middle East, in the US, in other parts of Europe and Africa. And sometimes we come to places where people say, we don't have a forest like you, so it doesn't make sense to build in timber. And we wanted to investigate that idea and see, okay, but if you have to transport the timber, what impact does it really have? And our understanding from this, finding from this research project is that, yes, we should absolutely push for local to reduce transportation emissions and cost. But if you do need to transport timber, it's still fine and a lot better than conventional solutions. On the left, you can see the total transportation emissions for the Skellefteå project in Skellefteå. And we made a test saying, what if we transported everything to Bordeaux or to New York? And you can see, of course, the transportation emissions are much larger. But when you put it in with all of the other emissions over the life cycle of the building, you can see the total emissions of Skellefteå in Skellefteå, the Sericulture Center Skellefteå here. The difference with Bordeaux and New York is not huge. And on the right-hand side, you have the benchmark concrete building in Skellefteå. So without the transportation, but with conventional materials, you can see that it's much higher. So this is really something that we're pushing today. Use local as much as possible, but if you can't, it's still more interesting to work with bio-based solutions, even if it has to be transported. And I think this is my last slide. I'm sorry if I ran over, but of course, I'm happy to keep discussing the challenges and technical issues that we had and solutions that we found in this project. But it always comes back to architecture and public and urban design, that all of these buildings that we're realizing with these new materials, they should not just be technical showcases. It really needs to be buildings that have a function in their city and that add to the attractivity of the cities. And I think this is why the Sericulture Center has become such a beacon, even being selected as one of the world's greatest places in 2022. Something that I think no one would have thought was possible only 5 or 6 years earlier in a city in this location.
Thank you so much, Oscar.
Thank you.
Really interesting to have that deep dive into, you know, going through all the different levels of the building, and very interesting, all the information that and all the learnings, I think, from that process of showing that it is possible. We have 15 minutes left today. I'll open up for some questions.
I see there's one in the chat.
There is. Yaroslav wants to know about, it's always been interested in how timber construction deals with humidity and the potential rotting of exposed materials. So how do wood and water go together?
Yeah, wood and water go well together as long as the wood can dry out from time to time. So if it's exposed materials outside, you can see behind Emma that the facade of the culture center, the lower parts, behind me myself as well, are exposed timber. So here we've worked a lot with the details to make sure that it's exposed evenly to sun and humidity and water, to make sure it grays evenly, because this building, anything exposed outside will eventually turn gray. Whereas the timber that's exposed through the glass, so the hotel and everything through the windows to the culture center, will remain with this hue. In Sweden, we have a climate that's very variable. So in the winter, it's often very cold and very dry. It goes down to 3 to 4% of relative humidity. So the timber has an opportunity to dry out well between rainfall, which means that moisture doesn't grow in the same way. We have worked with the treatment of the timber of this part as well that's exposed with a minimal amount of minerals that protect against rotting on the outside. And on the inside, it's really good to have exposed timber because you can see the timber, it can dry out with the interior climate as well. So it's not hidden behind gypsum. So if there's a leak, you can see the timber is affected. You can see that it dries out as well. There you have a difficulty sometimes with fire protection that you don't see whenever there's a leak and the timber and the water gets locked in.
Thank you. There's also a question here from Ivanka. What is the maximum distance of CLT's slab edge can be?
I would ask if you could rephrase the question, because I'm not sure what distance you are aiming at, or if someone else is distance between what and what.
I think maybe how large, maybe.
Yeah, so I think that the standard size for CLT slab coming from the factory in Sweden is 16 by 3 meters approximately. So of course we're trying to use this dimension as much as possible to reduce offcuts. Within the building, I mean, the industry today is working with shorter spans to reduce the amount of material. I think this is something that needs to be tuned within each project, and actually a question that we're working a lot on in the research lab to make sure that we have spans that allow for flexibility. In this building, we have the special trusses that take the very large spans, but you can see that the trusses are distance 3.6 meters apart. So the CLT spans 3.6 meters between the primary structure, and then the longer spans is made through glue laminated timber and sometimes glue laminated and steel hybrids.
Thank you. And Yuna has a question, or two questions really, one about how's the indoor climate, and also about the timber color, how it will change and age.
Yes. So beginning by the timber color, I think this is super interesting, and we're being asked quite a lot internationally where the aging of timber is seen as problematic sometimes. When it goes from this very nice warm color, it goes gray or sometimes black if you don't do the detailing right. So here we've been very clear that we need to avoid the uneven aging of the facade. We want it to age in a very homogenic way. And we've done the details of the facade accordingly. But we've also showed a few renders to the client early on, showing this is what the building will look like when you move in, and it's basically the image of the realized building behind us, but also showing the different steps as the timber goes gray. In probably 10 or 15 years' time, this facade will be silver gray, everything that's exposed outside, and it will work together with the more warm golden hue of the timber that's protected indoors, which will stay as it is today in the future, and maybe darken very slowly, but not much. And we think it's important as well that buildings today can age and not making solutions that stay the same forever, because in the end they don't stay the same forever, and it's very difficult to handle. This is a facade that's made to age gracefully. And of course, should any part of it be damaged, it's a wooden facade. It's quite easy to change in parts as well. The indoor climate, of course, works really well in a building like this because we have a very large timber structure that is exposed to the inside air. So this means that when there's a lot of people in a room, the humidity increases, but here the structure can help and absorb this humidity and reduce the peak variations. And of course, we have a standard for the indoor climate in Sweden. And when you don't have a structure that helps you, you need more ventilation, more air conditioning, which takes more energy, but also dries people out in the end as well, because you have a higher flow of air. So we really used the mass timber structure here to help regulate the indoor climate, making sure it's not as dry on the driest winter days, which you can feel in your eyes and your skin, that it doesn't dry out as fast, and not as humid on the warmest days of summer or when there's a peak people load in one of the theater stages.
Yaroslav says, made to age beautifully is a wonderful concept. And it's also something we need when we're working with sustainable architecture. We need to have new ideas of aesthetics and how buildings can grow and change over time, made to last. Lots of thank yous coming up in the chat there. I wonder if there's any further questions.
Yeah, I
Martin?
had a lot of questions, but probably I will ask them during the second roundtable. But just an overall thing. First of all, I'm really impressed about the detailed presentation. I also want to join all the things and to thank you for this presentation. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And me and my team and my colleagues, we always are interested about the development of timber construction in Sweden over the past decades. So as we know, Sweden has an aim till 2030 or till 2035 to become a zero carbon country, and that every sphere is pushing this and is working in this way. But I wanted to ask, was there perhaps a period when high-rise timber construction was not popular, was not widespread, or probably you had some limitations, some code limitation or anything else in timber construction before, like 10 years ago or 20 years ago? And so what's changed in terms of the evolution of timber construction in Sweden? So it's just about the new horizon of country aim to become a carbon neutral country, or is there any different condition that pushed the timber construction till the condition that you have now? Because it's what we saw, it's really impressive. And as I know, it's really impressive even for other European countries, not just for Poland, Germany, and as I understand, as I remember, French, they built 16-story building, and it's really a success story for them. So what was the reasons you developed so much in timber construction?
Yes, I think that there are many reasons, and that's why it's developed so much, because it's a multifaceted movement, I would say. But when it comes to regulations, the first topic is that when we joined the EU, our regulation was harmonized in 1994. Before that, it was a cap on two-story construction in Sweden. So then there was no research or ambition to build taller buildings than 2 stories in timber. And that's when that opened up. And then we are in a rather conservative industry that always builds on experience from realized projects. This is really good to increase the quality, but it means it doesn't go so fast to implement change. So from then, and with the arrival of CLT as a rather new material, development hasn't been very fast. We started doing more and more residential, up to 7 or 8 stories in the early 2000s, but mostly monofunctional. And I would say that this is the first high-rise building in Sweden. And the reason for that is that we don't build that much high-rise buildings in Sweden in general. So I think this was an expression of what you can do with timber. But I think that the main topic for Sweden in the years to come is increasing the amount of timber and bio-based construction in regular mid-size construction. So 7, 8 stories, what we do in most of our cities. For us, the main issue is not how we can make our tall buildings more sustainable, because we do very few. But this is interesting, and of course provides learnings that can be used in other countries where maybe you have a higher scale in general. But the push in Sweden, I think, is mainly from an environmental perspective. And this is kind of the reason to be and why we go into this. But as people transition into bio-based and timber construction, you realize all of the benefits of timber. And it's such a wonderful material to work with as an architect. It's a wonderful buildings to be inside. And we're also changing the way we're designing our buildings to realize this. And through that increased collaboration, we can make better buildings in general, not just from a technical point of view, but how do we use them? How do we make sure that everyone gets involved in the design process? All of this comes together with this kind of green transition, which is super fun and is generating much better buildings. So I think this is why we're getting so much traction today.
Thank you. So a lot of to ask. So as I understood, it's this building, it's like a manifesto to show their abilities. Because
Yeah.
as we see, the urban pattern is like it's dominant in the urban pattern. Was it a competition?
Yes.
It was a competition. In the higher the building was proposed due to the competition rules or not?
No, so it's very interesting actually, because for us it's a showcase of what you can do with timber, but we chose to do it here because it's also very much connected to the site. And the municipality being the client, it's not a showcase project when it comes to budget. It's a municipal budget to build a culture center and a hotel on the site. So the design with the high building is the result of the program on the site. We don't have space to do it in another way. And for us, this was a very rational way to make a hotel that functions well and a culture center that functions well and that are very much integrated at the same time. So the floor plans are completely separate, but the people flows are connected. So among the submissions to this competition, there were low rise, there were more high rise, there were all sorts of typologies, all sorts of materials as well. So the municipality had a very strong drive for timber construction in general, but I don't think anyone envisioned this building with the complex contents and the potential height of it, that it could be realized in timber this way. But this was our proposal to say, we need to do this. You have a strategy to build in timber. Your main building in the center must be timber as well, of course.
Yeah, thank you for that. And the last one, I also always was interested in that, and I think a lot of people would be, do you have skeptics about timber construction in Sweden? And what do they say?
Yes, of course. And I think that's healthy, that we have different parties looking at this from different angles. Of course, a very big part of the construction industry have not worked with timber construction at the larger scale before. So there's a lack of knowledge, and there's a lot of common beliefs on how timber performs when it comes to fire, when it comes to cost, acoustics, humidity. All of the technical challenges are, of course, a big issue of concern for people who have not worked with this. That's one thing. Then we have another, and that I think we can handle, and we're still seeing regulations developing. So I think the solutions will evolve over time as well. So it's an important discussion to have. On the other end of the discussion, of the scale, is the forestry. The connection to the sustainability of how we manage our forests. How should we account for carbon emissions and sequestrations? And how does this relate to biodiversity and the forest as a cultural space, as a recreational space? And this is something we're engaging a lot with as well. We made an exhibition at the previous Venice Biennale, where we connected the forest, the sawmill, and the finalized project building to kind of create this discussion on where do we extract the raw material? What impact do we have there? What qualities does it build in our built environment? And there, I think we are constantly learning how to develop the forestry to make sure it's adaptive and it has the least amount of impact possible in the forest, and also maybe seeing how do we section what forests are made for construction, what forests do we leave untouched. And these are all topics that I think we do. I have a strong belief on the way forward, but I think we need to keep this dialogue open to make sure that all of these industries evolve and become better and better as well.
Thank you. I think that was an important discussion to have there at the end as well, that we go back to the forest and where we're coming from in a circular way. The time is up. It's time to say thank you from us. The project Sustain Timber will keep going until July. If you would like to come in contact with the project, I'm putting the email addresses of myself and Studios Mist into the chat. You can send us a link, an email, and we'll get in contact. And thank you for your time today, for your exchanges, for the wonderful presentations. This is the first step of a longer term capacity building project between Sweden and Ukraine, and we're happy to have you on the journey with us. So thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you too. Thank you, colleagues, for your time and for your also really amazing presentation. Thank you, Oscar and Emma. Thank everybody that found the time. And we feel here in Lviv, in Studio Zmis, that this project is really important for everybody of us, for architects, for constructors. So stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.